Now, around 4,000 UK victims of the infected blood scandal are to finally receive interim compensation of £100,000 each, the government has announced. It will be given to those whose health is failing after developing blood-borne viruses like hepatitis and HIV, as well as the partners of people who died after receiving transfusions of contaminated blood. It's the first time that compensation will be paid after decades of campaigning. Some families welcomed the news, but said there were many people, such as bereaved parents, who would miss out. Well, Bev Tumelty gave evidence when the infected blood inquiry held sessions in Cardiff. Her brothers, Gareth and Hayden Lewis, were given contaminated products to treat their haemophilia. They died within 7 months of each other in 2010. And we're also joined by Sue Sparks, whose husband Les died after he was also treated in Cardiff for his haemophilia with contaminated products. Both of you, Bev and Sue, welcome to the programme. Let me start with you, Sue. Your husband died. How much of a relief is it now that you're finally going to get some payment after so much time?
It's a relief more than anything to know that it looks like they're going to admit that they've done wrong, which is something that we've never had before. But on the other hand, it is a bittersweet moment to know that not everyone's going to get it, and there's a lot of people being left out who deserves it just as much as we do.
When did Les die, and how long have you been fighting for this recognition, as you put it?
Well, Les died in 1990, March 1990. We were told in 1985 in the September, but they knew a good 6 months to a year before that he was infected, but they never told us. And basically, it's been an ongoing thing, really, from the early 90s that we would try and get the truth.
Well, that's an extraordinary ridiculously long amount of time that and finally this recognition, that's after this recommendation came out that you should receive the money. And of course, as you say, some people will lose out, won't they?
There's a lot of people, because they're only doing it at the moment for people who are registered on the schemes, which are the people who are still alive and the widows that are registered on the schemes. As the other people are not registered, like the parents, children, like my own children, other people's children whose parents have died, maybe one parent, two parents have died, being infected with this and being infected by their partners, and they've lost two parents. So they're not included in this, and it's bittersweet for us knowing the fact that everyone should be included in it. Even like Bev with her brothers and that, she was a sibling, she watched them grow up, she's gone through everything with her brothers and that. So
let's Sue, stay there, Sue. Well, let's move to Bev. Bev, do you also welcome this news after 12 years since your brothers died?
Oh, absolutely. It's a tremendous day for those that have been or will be given the interim payments. The devolved governments haven't actually made an announcement yet, but we believe that they will. So that's fantastic. And it's funny that Sue has used the word bittersweet day. I've heard that phrase so many times today from various campaigners. It is a very bittersweet day. My brothers would be so pleased that the interim payments have been announced, but again, saddened that there are excluded groups at the moment. But at the conclusion of the inquiry, which we hope will be the tail end of next year, there might be some further news on the other groups.
I can't imagine.
We remain hopeful.
I can't imagine the pain that you and other families went through. I mean, you lost two brothers who you were very close to. Has this delay in, again, as you put it, somebody acknowledging what happened and this payment, has this delay made it even worse?
Yeah, it could have been solved many years ago if only governments and health authorities had admitted culpability in what they'd done. They sourced blood products from very, dodgy groups of people, for want of a better phrase. They were paid donors in America, and they imported blood products that they didn't need to import. It was sold to haemophiliacs at the time as life-saving, life-changing treatment, and that wasn't strictly true.
And Sue, last word to you. The next stage is what? The inquiry, and hopefully then you'll get the answers as well as the payment.
Well, yes, we hope that. It sounds like the way Sir Brian has made this announcement now, that he is for us. We are going to get a good outcome to this inquiry. But I think that what they need to do is, even if they've got to wait till the inquiry's finished, other people, they need to start the ball rolling now and get these schemes up and running. So when the final reckoning is done, they can just go straight in and pay the people. Because if it means they've got to wait another year after the inquiry's finished, it's going to take that much longer. And parents of children are that much older now.
Yeah.
And you think this has been going on for 35, 40 years.
That's far too long, as you say. Yeah. So we're going to have to...
Parents are a lot older.
So we're going to have to leave it there because we're running out of time, but we'll be doing more on this throughout the programme. That's Sue Sparks and Bev Tumelty. Thanks for joining us on BBC Radio Wales.
Campaign groups have welcomed the decision to give an interim compensation payment of £100,000 to people given infected blood. The money will go to those who've developed life-changing conditions and to the partners of people who've died. Sue Sparks' husband Les died after he was treated in Cardiff for his haemophilia with contaminated blood products. She told BBC Radio Wales Drive her reaction to the decision.
It looks like they're going to admit that they've done wrong, which is something that we've never had before. But on the other hand, it is a bittersweet moment to know that not everyone's going to get it, and there's a lot of people being left out who deserves it just as much as we do.
Now, around 4,000 UK victims of the infected blood scandal are to finally receive interim compensation of about £100,000 each, the government has announced. It will be given to those whose health is failing after developing blood-borne viruses like hepatitis and HIV, as well as the partners of people who died after receiving transfusions of contaminated blood. It's the first time that compensation will be paid after decades of campaigning. Earlier we heard from Sue Sparks, whose husband Les died after he was treated in Cardiff for his haemophilia.
Well, Les died in 1990, March 1990. We were told in 1985 in the September, but they knew a good 6 months to a year before that he was infected, but they never told us. Basically, it's been an ongoing thing, really, from the early 90s that we would try and get the truth. It's a relief more than anything to know that it looks like they're going to admit that they've done wrong, which is something that we've never had before. But on the other hand, it is a bittersweet moment to know that not everyone's going to get it, and there's a lot of people being left out who deserves it just as much as we do.
Sue Sparks there. Well, Julie Morgan is Wales's Deputy Minister for Social Services and has supported the campaigners for 25 years, including during her time as an MP. Julie, certainly a bittersweet moment, isn't it?
Yes, it is a bittersweet moment. I think obviously it's to be welcomed because it is a step and it is an acknowledgement. So I think that's very important. But this, of course, is an interim payment. The £100,000 is an interim payment, and it is going to those who have been infected and who are still living, and to the bereaved, but not all of the bereaved, not children, for example, not parents of a child who's died. But there are recommendations by Sir Robert Francis that should happen. So I think we have to look on this as the first stage.
Why do you think this has taken so long? To many people, it's clear what happened, that the mistakes are being acknowledged. But why has this taken so long?
Well, I mean, the infections happened in the 70s and 80s, so it has taken a very long time to reach where we are today. And we're only reached where we are today because of the persistent campaigning of people who've been affected by this and their family and friends. And we've played a major role in Wales in influencing the setting up of this judge-led inquiry, which will be fully reporting in about 12 months, we hope. So we have played a major role in Wales in making this happen. But I think successive governments have not acknowledged what actually appeared to have happened. I mean, we will have the details. We'll have Sir Brian Langstaff, the judge in charge of the inquiry. We'll have his verdict of what actually did happen as far as he can make out as soon as possible, because, relatives have waited for this for so long. But, it's successive governments have not decided to have this inquiry, and it's only because of the huge pressure that's been put upon them that this has happened now.
Are you confident that nothing like this could happen again? Certainly not in this sphere, could it?
Not in this particular sphere, I don't think. I think that this, lessons have been learnt, and the blood transfusion system is very transparent now. I mean, what happened in the past was that blood was used that was very likely to have been contaminated, that was imported, and I think blood was used that was from prisoners, and was very liable for contamination, and that could never happen now. But obviously it's very difficult to say in any sphere like this that nothing could ever happen again. But we want to make sure that by this inquiry that nobody has to go through what these families have had to gone through, because it has been, I can't say how much they've suffered and how lives have been ruined because of this. And this is something that was avoidable. These people were having treatment from the NHS. They were having, blood transfusions that were supposed to, possibly be saving their lives. But that resulted then in contracting HIV, hepatitis C.
And very briefly, Julie, I mean, and because it's been so long, has anybody actually ever been held accountable for this? Has anybody, apart from the financial payments that will now come out, will anybody pay politically or with their careers?
Nobody has been held accountable, and I think that's what we're hoping will come out of the inquiry. By making these payments, these £100,000, I think that it does show an acknowledgement that somebody is accountable for this, that the government is taking responsibility for what happened, but we'll have to wait to see what Sir Brian Langstaff's report says.
Great. That's Julie Morgan, Wales' Deputy Minister for Social Services. Thanks for joining us on BBC Radio Wales. It's 6:20.